Imagine you're in public. Someone throws a cheap insult your way about your work, your appearance, your character. Before you even process what they said, something inside you tenses up. That heat rising in your chest, that's the reflex, anger, defensiveness, maybe even the urge to clap back. But here's the thing, this is just the surface reaction. It's instinctual, sure, but not inevitable. Marcus Aurelius, writing nearly 2,000 years ago, reminded himself often, you don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. The Stoics understood that emotions like anger don't come from the world. They come from how we interpret it. And in moments like these, our minds go into autopilot. They disrespected me. They're wrong. I have to respond. But what if you didn't? What if you paused, just for a second, and saw the moment not as an attack, but as a mirror, a test, a kind of emotional drill? Not something to fix, but something to observe. That's what the Stoics practiced daily, not denying their emotions, but understanding them before they acted. And when you do that, when you create space between what happens and how you respond, everything slows down. You go from being reactive to being in control, not of them, but of you.
So someone throws shade at you, criticizes your work. Maybe they even mean it. The first thought is, they disrespected me. But what if the insult doesn't actually belong to you? Seneca once said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And it's true. Most of the pain from insults comes not from the words themselves, but from how we interpret them, from the meaning we attach. We replay what they said, we analyze tone, we imagine what others think. All of that's our own mind creating suffering. But what if you didn't absorb the insult at all? Epictetus, another Stoic voice, had a way of detaching from this. He said, if someone speaks ill of you, live in such a way that no one believes them. In other words, let your life be the proof, not your words. That's a power move. And here's a twist. Sometimes people lash out because of what they're going through, not because of what you've done. Their insult might say more about their struggles than your worth. Once you start seeing insults this way, like static on a bad radio channel, they start to lose their grip. You don't have to take everything personally. In fact, you'll find a lot more peace when you don't. And once you've stopped giving insults power, the next step is knowing where your actual power does lie. Once you stop giving energy to every insult that flies your way, the question becomes, where should your energy go? Epictetus broke it down cleanly. There are two kinds of things in life. Those you control and those you don't. That's it. Everything fits into one of those buckets. And spoiler alert, other people's opinions, moods, tone, and behavior, not yours to control. But your response, your inner world, 100% in your hands. This is where a lot of people trip up. We waste so much time trying to correct others, to get them to see us differently, speak more respectfully, act the way we think they should. But Stoicism flips that. It asks, why are you giving your peace away over something that was never yours to manage? It's like standing in the rain yelling at the clouds instead of just grabbing an umbrella. The modern philosopher Viktor Frankl once wrote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. That space, that's where your freedom lives. Not in changing people, but in choosing how much power they get over your inner state. You can care about what people say, but you don't have to carry it. So next time someone's words start to get under your skin, pause and ask, is this within my control? If it's not, maybe it doesn't deserve your energy. And from here, we move into a mental skill that most people overlook, something the Stoics practiced every morning to stay ahead of their emotions.
So if we can't control what people say or do, how do we keep ourselves steady when it happens anyway? That's where the Stoics had a clever habit, one that sounds odd at first. They imagine the worst-case scenario before it happened. It's called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. The idea wasn't to become paranoid or negative, but to build mental resilience. Marcus Aurelius would wake up and remind himself, "Today I will meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest," not to start his day in a bad mood, but so that when it happened, it wouldn't knock him off balance. Think of it like emotional armor. You wouldn't go into battle without preparing for resistance. Same with life. If you expect every day to go smoothly, you're setting yourself up to get blindsided. But if you tell yourself, "Okay, someone today might be rude, impatient, or disrespectful, and I'm ready for that," then when it happens, you're calm. You already saw it coming. Seneca called it rehearsing adversity. He believed that imagining misfortune made you less vulnerable to it, because what's familiar is less frightening. What's prepared for is less painful. This isn't about becoming cold or unfeeling. It's about getting ahead of life's unpredictability. The point isn't to expect the worst, it's to be unfazed by it. So before you step out into the world, take just a few seconds to ground yourself. People will be people, but you'll be ready. And that brings us to the next move, a response so quiet it starves conflict of the oxygen it needs to grow. Once you've seen the chaos coming, the question becomes, what do you do when it finally shows up? When someone actually does try to provoke you, insult you, or pull you into their drama? The Stoic answer? You do less than you think. You respond with calm, or maybe you don't respond at all. See, people expect a reaction. That's part of the game. Someone throws verbal punches, hoping you'll swing back. They want you rattled, defensive, off balance. But when you meet that storm with stillness, it confuses them. And more than that, it ends the cycle. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, don't become what you're trying to rise above. This isn't weakness, it's strategy. Think of anger like a fire. If you feed it, if you shout back, insult back, argue, it grows. But if you remove the fuel, it burns out on its own. That's the power of indifference. Not apathy, but deliberate non-reaction. It's the art of refusing to let someone else's chaos spill into your peace. There's a quiet kind of strength in that, a sense of control that doesn't come from dominating others, but from being unshaken by them. Even the Buddha said something similar. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. That doesn't mean you let yourself be a doormat. It means you choose not to fight battles that don't deserve your energy. You don't win every war by clashing swords. Some battles are won by walking away without a scratch. And that ability to stay centered while the world tries to push you off balance comes from something deeper, something rooted in how you relate to yourself. And that inner stillness we're talking about. It doesn't just belong to the Stoics. It shows up across philosophy time and time again, a pattern where the wisest people all seem to say the same thing in different words. Master your mind, or it will master you. Take Spinoza, for example. He believed emotions weren't just reactions, they were signs of misunderstanding. He wrote that we become slaves to our passions when we let ourselves be tossed around by them. But freedom, he said, comes from understanding, knowing where the emotion came from, what it's trying to do, and choosing not to be ruled by it.
Or look at Descartes, the same guy who said, "I think, therefore I am," also believed that emotions like anger cloud our ability to reason. He saw reason as the tool that could separate signal from noise. When you pause to think, not react, you reclaim the driver's seat. Even Nietzsche, not exactly known for emotional softness, spoke about the importance of becoming a master of your moods. He didn't mean suppress your feelings, he meant train them, discipline them, so they serve you, not sabotage you. What all these thinkers shared was a belief in inner clarity, a belief that chaos on the outside doesn't have to create chaos within, that you could be in the middle of noise yet stay untouched. That's real power, not shouting, not controlling, but being so grounded that nothing pulls you off center. And the more you spend time with thinkers like these, not as homework, but as voices in your corner, the more that clarity starts to rub off on you. It becomes part of how you think, how you show up. Because emotional mastery isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about being steady in the feeling, without being swept away by it. And one of the easiest ways to build that steadiness? Surround yourself with minds that embody it. Montaigne, the French essayist, had this beautiful habit. He wrote to think, not to teach. His essays weren't lectures, they were conversations with himself, with Seneca, with Plato, with dead thinkers he admired but never met. It wasn't about being right, it was about being less alone in his thoughts. That's what philosophy can be. A room full of calm voices when the world feels too loud. You don't need to read with a highlighter or turn every page into a lesson. Sometimes just reading a single sentence from Marcus Aurelius can reset your whole day. Like when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." You don't have to memorize that, you just sit with it. Let it sink in. Or Seneca, writing letters to his friend Lucilius as if to say, "Hey, here's what I've been thinking about lately. Maybe it'll help." No pressure, no preaching. Just two people trying to figure things out. The more time you spend with thinkers like these, the more you start to carry them with you. When someone tries to provoke you, it's no longer just your reaction on the line. It's you and a few thousand years of perspective standing quietly in your corner. No, it doesn't make you better than anyone. It just makes you harder to shake. Philosophy isn't about having all the answers. It's about sitting with better questions, with better company. And when your thoughts are shaped by minds that value calm, strength, and clarity, you start to move through life a little differently. Quieter, but somehow more powerful. Because even when the outside world is quiet, there's still one voice left to deal with, the one in your own head. That voice can be brutal. It replays what happened, what they said, what you should have said back. It exaggerates, it judges. Sometimes it turns an ordinary moment into a personal attack, and before you know it, you're not even arguing with them anymore, you're arguing with yourself. The Stoics weren't blind to this. Epictetus talked about the impressions we get, those first automatic thoughts, and how they can deceive us. He said, don't just accept appearances, test them. Meaning, don't believe every thought just because it showed up. Challenge it, question it. Is this useful? Is this true? Does this serve peace or just my pride? Even Marcus Aurelius would check himself mid-thought. He wrote in his journal, not to impress anyone, but to stay sane. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. So when your mind starts spiraling after an insult or some conflict, maybe ask, what voice am I listening to right now? My calm or my critic? And here's something rarely talked about. Most people don't want to hurt you. They're just stuck in their own loops. They speak out of stress, insecurity, ego, just like we sometimes do. Realizing this doesn't excuse everything, but it does create space. And in that space, the inner critic quiets down. When you stop reacting, not just to others, but to yourself, you begin to move differently. Your decisions come from clarity, not noise. Your calm isn't forced, it's real. And once that inner calm becomes your baseline, even the loudest voices can't reach you. Because the final piece of this puzzle is realizing you don't need to fight every battle just because it's offered. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. No retort, no clapback, no over-explaining or defending, just silence. Because silence isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's the decision to not waste your peace on proving a point. When someone throws negativity your way and you don't react, you're not just avoiding conflict, you're showing that their words don't have a home inside you. That's unsettling to people who feed off reactions. They expect you to bite, to flare up, but when you don't, they're left talking to the wind. Lao Tzu once said, "He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty." Self-restraint in moments of tension is its own form of power. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it's solid. There's a kind of quiet revenge in not needing to engage. And here's the real twist. The people you admire most, the ones who seem unshakable, they're not like that because life is easier for them. They've just decided that not everything deserves a response. They've learned that being right doesn't always matter, but keeping your energy does. Even Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, understood this. He could have crushed anyone with a word, but instead he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Every time you choose silence over reaction, you're not backing down, you're stepping up. You're saying, "I don't need to match your energy. I'll keep mine." And in that moment, you win something more valuable than the argument, your peace. But all of this, the calm, the clarity, the restraint, leads to one deeper truth, one that pulls everything we've talked about into a single, unshakable mindset. So here we are, after all the words, the insults, the tension, the tests. What's left? You. Still here, still standing. The Stoics never promised a world without conflict. They never claimed you'd reach some perfect emotional state where nothing ever bothered you again. What they offered instead was this, the ability to remain whole while the world pulls at you from every direction. Real power isn't found in control over others, it's found in control over yourself. It's in the pause before the reaction, in the thought before the outburst, in the silence when you could have exploded. Seneca wrote, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." That's what this whole thing is, a process, a slow sharpening, one insult at a time, one moment of calm at a time. You won't always get it right. You'll slip, you'll snap, you'll have days where your emotions get the better of you. That doesn't make you weak, it just makes you human. But every time you choose composure over chaos, you're becoming harder to shake. Not colder, just clearer. You start to see insults for what they really are, echoes from other people's storms. And storms only last if you invite them in. So the next time someone tries to drag you into their anger, their mess, their noise, remember what you've built. Remember what's within your control. And above all, remember, no one has power over you unless you hand it to them. Not reacting isn't running away, it's rising above.